This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
As the Palestinian political factions are continuing to study ways to strengthen their national unity, the Israeli occupation announced today that 2 rockets were launched into southern Israel. The army said that one of the rockets exploded near a farming settlement with no casualties to report. After a long journey, the British aid convoy, dubbed as the Artery of Life, passed through the Rafah border crossing. The convoy, which consists of more than 200 vehicles, has received a warm welcome in Gaza, both at the public and official levels. The convoy of Gaza supporters arrived after days of suffering, persistence, and patience. More details are in the following report by our correspondent, Zuhair Sakala.
After a long closure and wait, the gates to the Rafah border crossing were opened. British Member of Parliament George Galloway arrived in the Gaza Strip at the head of an aid convoy dubbed the Artery of Life. The convoy received a warm reception both at the public and official levels.
We would like to express our gratitude, appreciation, and admiration to the British freedom fighters who helped mobilize this aid convoy. The convoy is carrying a humanitarian message.
The convoy, which is carrying aid to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, is different than other aid convoys, as it crossed international border lines and passed through several countries. It is the longest journey ever to be launched in solidarity with the Palestinian people. The convoy carried supporters in dozens of ambulances carrying medical aid to the Gaza Strip. Upon entering the Gaza territory, the supporters were overwhelmed with happiness.
I'm speechless. I'm speechless. The journey took 3.5 weeks. We have great feelings for the Palestinians. I can't say more, but I am very happy to be here.
Aside from carrying medical relief and aid to the Palestinians, the Artery of Life convoy has sent several messages to the world. Among these messages is a plea to the world to end the suffering of the Palestinian people and help lift the blockade imposed on them.
To call the attention.
The purpose of this journey is to call the attention of the leaders of the countries we have crossed. There is an urgent need to break the siege imposed on Gaza.
Away from the details describing the entry of the British Artery of Life aid convoy into Gaza, the supporters' persistence to pass through the Rafah border crossing shows the level of international solidarity which aims at lifting the blockade imposed on the Gaza Strip. Zuhair Sakala from the Rafah border crossing in the southern Gaza Strip.
There is a lot to report today in the ongoing drama of kidnapped IDF soldier Gilad Shalit. First, Deputy Political Chief for Hamas, Musa Abu Marzouk, denied a Kuwaiti newspaper story that he had received a letter and a videotape of Shalit when he visited the Gaza Strip in late February. Despite Marzouk's denial, a Hamas source told the London-based Al-Quds newspaper that a tape of Shalit does exist. Meanwhile, a Saudi newspaper, Al-Watan, claims Turkey has ceased trying to negotiate the release of Shalit, citing unreasonable demands by the Hamas terror group as the reason. And at this hour, Aliza Olmert, wife of the Prime Minister, has invited Noam and Aviva Shalit, parents of the kidnapped soldier, into the Prime Minister's residence in Jerusalem. This week, the Shalits began demonstrating outside the Premier's home, vowing to stay until their son was freed or Olmert left office. Today, the Shalits were visited by the parents of Nachshon Wachsman, an IDF soldier who was kidnapped and murdered by Palestinian terrorists in 1994. Yesterday, Defense Minister Ehud Barak stopped by but offered no hope for an early release. Other visitors included the brother and daughter of missing Air Force navigator Ron Arad and Karnit Goldwasser, whose Army husband Ehud was kidnapped and murdered by Hezbollah terrorists in July 2006.
What I can do right now is just bring my support to the Shalit family and let them feel that it's not their private problem, it's us, it's a private problem of the society in Israel. Gilad is expressing a problem, expressing someone from Israel that could be everyone else.
The Jalil Association for Research and Health Services inside the Green Line released a report on a comprehensive survey of Arab conditions inside of Israel.
Ramiz Jaisi, the head of the Regional Committee for the Head of Arab Municipal Authorities, said that the survey includes detailed information and numbers that relate to various aspects of health, culture, economy, and social life. The report confirms that Arabs in Israel face racial discrimination imposed by Israel.
الإحصاء يبرز واقع نعرفه ولكن تأتي الأرقام والإحصائيات
The statistics highlight a reality that we are aware of. However, it includes numbers and statistics that confirm the reality of national racism in all fields that the Palestinian minority faces in this country. We are a community that conforms. We are not an independent community in any field of life. The central decision is in the hands of the central authority, and it has a much stronger impact than the minority Arab Palestinian institutions in Israel.
Joining us from Shafa Omar inside the Green Line is Al Jazeera's correspondent Elias Karam. Elias, what impact has this report had inside of Israel?
يعني هذا التقرير بالأساس جاء لوضع هذه المعلومات وتجميعها كقاعدة بيانات مهمة بالنسبة للمجتمع العربي في إسرائيل.
This report came to put forth this information and collect as a basis for important statements relating to the Arab community in Israel. First, for the sake of economic and social development and improving the conditions of Arabs in Israel amidst what they call racially discriminating policies, which are practiced by Israeli institutions against 1.2 million Arabs living in Israel. The objective of collecting all this data and monitoring them in all aspects of life comes as a way to use them in the future in the court system to solve specific issues in the Israeli judiciary. Or it will be used to propose a development program either on the economic or social levels.
هذا المسح تطرق إلى عينة شملت أكثر من 3000 أسرة عربية في الجليل والمثلث والنهر.
This survey used a sample that included more than 3,000 Arab families in the Galilee, Al-Muthallath, and the Negev. It examined the living conditions of this Arab minority in terms of the economy, culture, health, and even the environment. These numbers will help Arab policymakers and Arab leaders in Israel in order to address these numbers and to confront Israeli institutions. For example, it can be used by the regional committee when it meets with various ministers or to propose recovery plans for the Arab community inside the Green Line. Aside from these alarming numbers, it also addresses the housing crunch inside the Green Line and unemployment that permeates the Arab-Israeli community.
البطالة المستشرية في المجتمع العربي الإسرائيلي هذه الأرقام.
These numbers reflect that the number of household members has largely declined in recent years due to the deteriorating economic conditions and the high rate of unemployment. This in addition to the housing situation in which Arabs are not allowed to build or expand homes in the Arab villages. The report indicates that in the next 10 years, Arab Israelis will need nearly 70,000 homes for newly married couples and the residential population increase. However, the current government's mechanism does not allow for the building of new homes, and there are no preparatory plans in place to do so. Aside from the many negative aspects presented in this report, there are some positive aspects related to the high level of academic achievement among Arab Israelis. The rate of reading and writing exceeds 95%, and the high number of homes who have access to computers.
Thank you, Elias Karam from Shaf Omar inside the Green Line.
The reconstruction of Nahr al-Bared refugee camp has commenced, and the authorities have been asking donor countries to fulfill their commitment and their promises.
The initial bricks were laid out to reconstruct the damage that took place a year and a half ago. However, this foundation does not mean that the reconstruction will be completed. The reconstruction will be hard, yet it won't be impossible.
We are committed to reconstruct and develop the Nahr al-Bared refugee camp and the neighboring Lebanese villages. We reiterate that we will cooperate despite the tampered Lebanese-Palestinian relations. We will respond to the common need to heal the memory. There is no link between our disagreement to naturalize the Palestinians and our insistence for the right of return and the right of Palestinians in Lebanon to live a dignified life.
As of now, the commitments and donations from donor countries have not been enough to reconstruct the refugee camp according to the plan that we have agreed upon. The money we have now is not enough to enable us to move forward with the reconstruction we hope for, unless the donor countries meet their obligations. I ask whoever is concerned to give their utmost effort to meet the financial needs to start the reconstruction so that the promise can be fulfilled in front of us.
The patience of the residents in the camp is the most helpful factor, in addition to their belief that they will be helped and that the road ahead has obstacles. We must cooperate to deal with the disastrous situation that was brought upon us, against our will, by a terrorist group that was imported to our country and does not belong to the goodness of the camp.
Funds received so far will allow us to construct only the first two.
The donations that we received so far will only allow us to build the first 2 out of the 8 stages of the reconstruction project. Allow me to take advantage of this opportunity to ask the donor countries to fulfill their promises and help the refugees return to their camp. We must reconstruct the Nahr al-Bared refugee camp, not just for the refugees, but also for the peace, security, and development of northern Lebanon.
شمال لبنان. المسؤولون استخلصوا من المعركة عبارها الوقاية من الإرهاب.
When it comes to terrorism, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. This is the lesson that was taken from the battle. The reconstruction of the camp will result in fixing the trust between Lebanon and Palestine.
لا يلغي حقه بالعودة.
The insistence of the refugees to live does not obliterate their right to return. The residents of the camp who are displaced are waiting to return to their homes in the refugee camp after the doves of peace return.
منذ عام 1988 وحتى عام 2003.
From 1988 until 2003, there wasn't a single murder in the area of Duluaiya, the calm Iraqi city and the home of ordinary Iraqis. They only knew Islam as a religion of peace and love. However, in the past years, this peaceful area became known as the Land of Fire. It was transformed into one of the most important strongholds for Al-Qaeda. How was this city transformed, and how did its residents live under the rule of deathmakers? And how are they able to get rid of this nightmare? We find out in this new episode of Deathmaking.
حلقة جديدة من صناعة الموت. أحييكم.
الضلوعية مدينة سميت بهذا الاسم كون نهر دجلة يحيط بها من 3 جهات.
This area was called Ad-Duluaiya because it is surrounded by the Tigris River from 3 sides, just like a heart inside the ribcage. Not a single person was killed in this agricultural area since 1988. However, this was changed when Al-Qaeda took over the city, which was the home of more than 600 different officers. After the American forces occupied Baghdad, the city fell under the control of Baathists and Islamists. Both believed in changing things by using force against what they viewed as occupation forces. Some Iraqis, however, believed that these troops were forces of liberation from the former regime of Saddam Hussein. Al-Qaeda did not have presence in the area of Dulu'iyya during the first year of the American occupation, but later Al-Qaeda's ideology started to influence the city. Abu al-Harith Wathiq Abdul Latif al-Jubairi made an agreement with Al-Qaeda in Iraq leader Abu Mus'ab al-Zarqawi. The 25-year-old Abu al-Harith is the brother of the Islamic State of Iraq spokesman Muharib al-Jubairi. After this agreement, Al-Dulu'iyya became one of the most important strongholds of Al-Qaeda. The Mujahideen Shura Council was established there during a meeting in 2005 that was attended by Abu Mus'ab al-Zarqawi in addition to Abi al-Ala Tal al-Affar, Muharib al-Jubairi, Mullah Mazin al-Jubairi, and Abu Abdullah, the head of Al-Anbar Council. The meeting marked the second coming of Abu Mus'ab al-Zarqawi to Al-Dulu'iyya. The city then became the largest center of foreign fighters. They were welcomed in Al-Dulu'iyya under the pretext of fighting the occupation. Al-Qaeda expanded in the city, which later became one of its most important strongholds. The city, however, was surrounded with 3 American military bases. Also, Abu Inas al-Shami visited the area, and he decided to make it the base of foreign fighters. It became the military area of Al-Qaeda, which extended from eastern Dulu'iyya all the way to the borders of Diyala province and Kirkuk in the north, which fell under the command of Abu Muhsin Qabr or Abu Ubaid al-Maghribi from Marrakesh, who later became the official mufti for the organization. Dr. Najm al-Nu'aimi, or Abu Safa from Al-A'lamiyya, who was detained in Buka prison, became the military commander of the organization and the ruler of Salah ad-Din province.
The spread of unidentified illnesses was one of the most prominent effects of the U.S. British occupation of Iraq during the past years. The village of Jarfamilla, east of the city of Basra, witnessed the emergence of illnesses and various physical deformities as a result of occupation forces using internationally banned weapons.
Poverty and the lack of services alone do not distinguish Jarfamilla village affiliated with the Tanuma town east of Basra. However, this village has become known for its many strange deformities. It is rare to find a home that does not have a deformed child, a bereaved mother, or a senior citizen with an amputated limb. For this reason, the village is popularly known as the village of amputees. Deformities spread quickly after U.S. and British forces entered Iraq. The residents say that the missiles and containers that the occupation forces used are behind the spread of these unusual deformities.
These American containers remain here. Below, right here, there was a shelter that housed women and children day and night, and the containers are on top of it. Not far from the containers, 2 babies were born deformed.
The weapon remnants and containers used by the occupation forces remain scattered within the view of the residents of this village. The results are illness that the doctors cannot diagnose, including swellings and sudden blindness.
I don't know what my illness is. I went to the doctor and he gave me tranquilizers, but these tranquilizers don't help me.
Residents called on the government to intervene to remove the radioactive remnants and appealed to humanitarian organizations to take on their cause.
This is all because of the Americans. I went to the field to pick crops, and then something suddenly exploded all over my legs, my hands, and my eyes.
We have 2 kids. They were inside the house, and I told them to get up, and they could not move.
The village is not the only victim of radioactive weapons, which the occupation forces left in Iraq. Poverty and the lack of services make it look as if it were a village of ghosts. Women, children, and the elderly continue to pay the cost of the U.S. and British occupation of Iraq and their use of internationally banned weapons. Despite all this, humanitarian organizations and the international community remain silent about the sufferings of these victims. From Jarf al-Millah, east of Basra, Naim Abdul Razak, Al-Alam.
During a press conference, the Alliance of Armed Movements of Darfur, including both those who have signed and those who did not sign the Abuja Peace Accord, reaffirmed their commitment to peaceful coexistence and unity in Sudan. The alliance called on armed groups to sit down at the table of unity and work to bridge the gap and counter foreign threats.
As the eyes started to turn to Sudan's efforts towards peace and stability in Darfur, the forces of aggression and arrogance are continuing to target Sudan in order to impede its progress and development. The allegations of the International Criminal Court, ICC, against the President of the Republic were strongly rejected by the Alliance of Armed Movements of Darfur. The statement was issued by all factions, which include those that have signed and those who have not signed the Abuja Peace Accord.
We would like to send a message to anyone trying to harm our beloved nation. We in the movements did bear arms on behalf of our nation, and we did sign the Abuja Agreement. Our agenda stands against the Zionist intervention in Sudan. We also stand against a sectarian division in Sudan. We, as part of the movements, have a clear agenda. We will continue to bear arms in order to help the efforts of development and reconstruction of Darfur.
During a press conference, the Alliance of Armed Movements of Darfur said that the ICC's decision doesn't mean much to Sudan. The alliance said that the only way to counter the ICC's decision is by strengthening the country's internal front and by the launching of development projects.
The arrest warrant issued by the head of the ICC Ocampo doesn't mean much to us as Sudanese. If the ICC is a court of justice, as it claims to be, then why would it make an exception in the case of the USA, whose political and military leaders have violated international laws? The U.S. is calling for the implementation of international laws, yet none of its leaders have been indicted by the ICC. Why is the U.S. mounting pressure on others to comply with the ICC's decision? The ICC's decision was politically motivated and influenced by the U.S. Therefore, we will not pay much attention to it. We need to prepare a practical response to counter this decision. We hereby call on all Sudanese factions, whether in the West or in the East, to follow the right path, the path of development and reconstruction.
The Alliance of Armed Movements of Darfur is considered to be a model of unity for the people of Darfur, especially after the ICC has issued its decision against Sudan. The ICC's decision was described by the Alliance of Armed Movements as a major blow to justice. The alliance further said that it is working jointly with the Sudanese government in order to fill in any unforeseeable vacuum left by foreign organizations in the event that they are expelled from the country.
We are pleading to all national and civic society organizations, all humanitarian relief agencies, especially the Red Cross, all economic institutions in the country, and all of our friends and brothers in the Arab world. We are pleading to them to extend their hands and help our brothers in the camps.
The Alliance of Armed Movements of Darfur, including those which have signed and those which have not signed the Abuja Peace Accord, called on the people of Darfur to sit at the table of dialogue and unity. During this unity, they will be able to prevent those who are trying to harm Sudan. And through this unity, they will be able to promote the spirit of peace and stability in Darfur.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.